If you work in quality control at a candy factory, you know strict safety regulations come with the job. It's why you partner with Grainger. Grainger helps you find the high-quality and compliant products your business needs to inspect, detect, and help correct issues. And the sweetest part is, everyone gets a product that's as safe to eat as it is delicious. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball, this is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
Hey, warmer from the low. Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. We've got an excellent podcast for you. In segment number 2, we're going to be joined by one of our good friends, Matt Josephs, a.k.a. Mid-Major Matt. We're going to be chatting with him about what we've all been seeing this baseball season, some of the surprises with him, what he's taking a look at in terms of the prop market, and some games for Sunday, as well as some of these teams that might be reversing course just a little bit. And I know that he's a Philadelphia Phillies fan, so certainly have to talk about those Phillies going up against the Braves in the final segment. Going to get you guys picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Sunday as we touch them all. If you do have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you do have one of two ways to be able to fire those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, letters EM. The name does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. The other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated, and then from there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. While I did not get in any Twitter/X questions today, everything is powered by Edge Boost. Edge Boost is making sure that bettors are able to access the funds that they truly want to, whenever, wherever. You're able to earn cashback rewards when you use Edge Boost, and when you go to edgeboost.bet, utilize that promo code of Greg, G-R-E-G. That'll get you a $1 match on your first deposit up to $25. Now let's take a look back at everything that we saw in baseball on Saturday. Try to find some trends and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
Now, I did have to do the show cashing out on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network, from 11 o'clock p.m. Eastern until 2 a.m., so we are not sure how that Angels game turned out against the Washington Nationals, so I had to omit that, but that said, most of the results are already in the books, and you saw the Kansas City Royals, who have been really rough at the plate thus far this season, and right now played north of 61% to the under. They get the job done against the LA Dodgers by a count of 9-5, and the Dodgers, best over team in all of baseball, 48 overs, 34 unders, and 2 pushes, and for the LA Dodgers, well, it was rough for the bullpen. Shohei Ohtani, 2 scoreless innings, and then the bulk guy, Ben Casparis, 6 runs allowed over the course of 4 innings, including a bomb. Vinny Pasquantino, 12th home run season, as Seth Lugo did walk 5 in 5 2/3 innings, but kept it scoreless. For the Dodgers, they leave 11 men on base. You had from there for the Dodgers, Luis Garcia give up 3 runs in a third of an inning. Anthony Banda, pair of outside the bullpen scoreless, and Miguel Rojas, position player, was able to give you a scoreless inning. And for the Royals, you did have Sammy Long come into the game. Did give up 4 runs in the 9th inning, but it was too little too late for the Dodgers. John Schreiber, scoreless inning, and Daniel Lynch, 1 1/3 inning scoreless. The St. Louis Cardinals are able to claw their way back against the Cleveland Guardians. It's by a count of 9-6, as for the Guardians, they got up 6-1 in this game, and they just could not hold on. Miles Michaelis completely shelled, 6 runs allowed in 4 innings, including a pair of bombs to Gabriel Urias, his 6th home run of the season, and Kyle Manzardo, he's able to go deep. That was home run number 13 of the campaign, and for the Cleveland Guardians, you got a relatively okay start out of Slade Sassoni, 3 runs allowed over the course of 4 2/3 innings. He allowed a home run of his own to Brendan Donovan, 6th home run of the campaign, and then Wilson Contreras is able to go deep off of Kobe Allard, his 11th home run season, as things went awry for the Guardians bullpen. Matthew Festa, no fiesta here. 4 runs allowed in 1 out of the bullpen. Tim Herron gives up a run in an inning, and Allard gives up that solo run in his 3 innings of work, and Cardinals bullpen did a nice job here. Steven Matz along with Phil Matone combined for 3 scoreless innings. Matt Savanson and Ryan Elsley, they both lend a scoreless inning as well. For the San Diego Padres, they come back from down 3 runs against the Cincinnati Reds. This by a count of 6-4, as Randy Vasquez does give up 4 runs in 4 1/3 innings, but the bullpen from there was very good. Brian Hoying was able to give you 5 outs out of the bullpen scores, and then Adrian Morejon, Jason Adam, Robert Suarez, they all lend a scoreless inning. A trio of bombs for the Padres, as well as Jake Cronenworth gets his 7th home run of the campaign, Gavin Sheets his 13th home run season, and Luis Urias was able to get his 4th home run of the season, as that one came off of Andrew Abbott. For Abbott, he gives up that 1 run over the course of 5 innings, and then you had Scott Barlow give up a home run, 2 runs in total in his inning of work. Lyon Richardson, 2/3 of an inning, 3 runs allowed, including a bomb. You had Ian Gabo give you a scoreless inning from there, and Brent Suter 4 outs out of the bullpen scoreless. For the Texas Rangers, they continue to be by far the best under team in all of baseball. 11 overs at 30 unders at home, and overall for the season, 28 overs, 54 unders, and a push. 3-2, they get the job done against the Seattle Mariners. As Brian Wu says woohoo to a nice start. Does give up 2 unearned runs in 6 innings. There was a bit of an error out there in the field by J.P. Crawford, and did allow a home run to Corey Seager back-to-back days with a jack 9th home run in the campaign. And Cooper Rocker was solid, 2 runs allowed in his 6 innings of work. He did allow a home run to Dominic Canzone, 5th home run in the campaign. Both bullpens were solid from there. Carlos Vargas, Gabe Spire combined for 2 scoreless innings, Matt Brash a scoreless inning, and then Andres Munoz gives up an unearned run in the 10th inning to walk it off. As for the Rangers, it was a Marcus Semien RBI single that ended it. And then for Texas, you had Hobie Milner, Chris Martin combined for 2 scoreless innings, and then Robert Garcia, Sean Armstrong. They both give you a scoreless inning apiece. The Tigers remain the hottest team out there in the American League, 20 games above 500, 10-5. They take it to the Twins, and Bailey Ober, he remains as cold as an igloo. 7 runs allowed in 5 2/3 innings, including a quartet of bombs. Zach McKinstry, 5th home run of the campaign. Riley Green is 18th home run of the season. Kerry Carpenter is 15th home run of the season. Gleyber Torres is 9th home run of the season. From there, Cole Sands was able to give you a pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless, and Joey Wentz, the former Tiger, 3 runs allowed in 1 2/3 innings. Pair of home runs here for the Twins, as Casey Mize gives one up to Byron Bucks, a 19th home run of the season, and Tommy Canley to Carlos Correa, 7th home run of the campaign. For Canley, 2 runs allowed in 1 1/3 innings, and Casey Mize, 2 runs allowed in 6 2/3 innings. You did have Chase Lee also give up a run in an inning, but rock solid win for the Tigers. Yankees have now scored 4 runs or fewer in 13 out of their last 16 games. 7-0. The A's blank the Yankees as J.P. Sears, a former Yankee, 5 2/3 inning scoreless. And then from there, 3 1/3 inning scoreless from Jack Perkins as the A's get a pair of bombs. Brent Rooker, 17th home run of the season, and Nick Kurtz, his 17th home run of the campaign for the Yankees. Clark Schmidt gives up both bombs, 4 runs in total in 6 innings. You did have from there Alan Winans give up 3 runs, 2 of which were earned in his 2 innings of work, and Ian Hamilton a scoreless inning, but nothing doing for the Yankees at the plate. Not a lot doing for the Mets at the plate as the New York team's in a little bit of a funk. 9-2. The Pittsburgh Pirates get the job done here. As for the Metropolitans, Paul Blackburn last 1 inning gives up 3 runs. Not ideal there. From there, Jose Buto 2 scoreless innings. Brandon Waddell 3 scoreless innings. Reed Garrett gives you a scoreless inning, and then the levee just broke. Oscar Brazoba and Colin Pouchet, they combine for an inning of work, and they give up a 6 spot in the 8th inning. As the Mets, they were pretty close, and if you had the under in this game, man, that is relatively rough as the Pirates go 6 of 12 with men in scoring position, and Bailey Falter, he goes for 1 2/3 innings, allows just 1 run. This game had a bit of a delay in there. Braxton Ashcraft gives up a run in 2 2/3 innings. From there, Caleb Ferguson 2 scoreless innings, David Benner 8 scoreless inning, and Dennis Santana 1 2/3 innings scoreless of his own. The Tampa Bay Rays, after they blew a 6-run lead on Friday, they get the job done on Saturday, 11-3. They take it to the Baltimore Orioles. Zach Little comes up big, solo home run allowed over the course of his 7 innings of work. He did allow that to Chadwick Trump, his first home run of the campaign. Then Ramon Laureano, he's able to get home run number 10 of the campaign. That comes off of Joe Rock in his MLB debut, give it up 2 runs in 2 innings, but the Rays had a pair of bombs of their own. As for Zach Eflin, pretty Eflin awful, giving up a home run to Jonathan Aranda, 10th home run of the season, and Yandy Diaz. Guys, it's hot as lava right now. 13th home run of the season. That comes off Scott Blewett, gave up 4 runs in 2 2/3 innings, so he lived up to his name, but Zach Eflin was pretty Eflin awful. 4 runs allowed in his inning of work. You had from there a scoreless inning out of Gregory Soto. Cade Stout was able to come in for 1 1/3 innings, allowed a run. Andrew Kittredge, he gives up 2 runs over the course of his inning of work, and Luis Vasquez, he comes in for 2 innings. He was able to keep it scoreless, also being able to keep it relatively scoreless. How about this team going out there being able to get the job done as the White Sox get a 1-0 win over the San Francisco Giants? Where the Giants pitching was solid. Robbie Ray gives up a solo home run in his 6 innings of work to Andrew Benintendi, 10th home run of the season, lone run of the game. Adrian, don't call him Doogie Howser, not pitching like Doogie, 7 scoreless innings, and then had 2 scoreless from Grant Taylor to be able to get a 2-inning save. And for the San Francisco Giants, you also had Eric Miller, Ted Rogers, both to be able to lend a scoreless inning. Being able to land a lot of scoreless innings as well was the Milwaukee Brewers, as they take it to the Colorado Rockies by a count of 5-0. For the Rockies, 65 losses now, 52 of them by multiple runs. No other team in the National League has 52 total losses, as Antonio Senzatella was a human piñata. 5 runs allowed in 4 1/3 innings, including a home run to Joey Ortiz, 5th home run of the campaign. From there, Anel Shavili, 2 2/3 innings scoreless. Tyler Kinley, 8 scoreless inning. And for the Brew Crew, Quinn Preister, 11 punch-outs in 7 scoreless innings, giving up 1. And Aaron Ashby, DL Turn It Up Hall, both landed scoreless inning against the Colorado Rockies. 1 total hit in this game. That's not going to do it. And this is not going to do it for the Arizona Diamondbacks. they blow a 4-run lead in the 8th inning against the Miami Marlins. 8-7, the Marlins find a way to get the job done as for Miami, Sandy Alcantara shelled once again. 7 runs allowed in his 6 innings of work, including a home run to Ketel Marte of the Marte Parte. 16th home run of the campaign. Brandon fought. He battled to 5 innings, 3 runs, 2 of which were earned from their Kyle Backus, Kevin Ginkel, both landed scoreless inning. Jalen Beeks, 3 runs allowed in his 3rd of an inning, though, as going deep off of him was Otto Lopez, his 8th home run of the campaign. From there, Ryan Thompson, pair of outside the bullpen scoreless, and then Shelby Miller. He gives up a run in his inning of work in the 9th inning to force extras, and then Juan Murillo gives up an earned run in that 10th inning. And for the Miami Marlins, you had Valentin Belozo give you 2 scoreless innings out of the bullpen, and Anthony Bender scoreless 9th and 10th innings to be out. Paul Shat went off. The Boston Red Sox had scored just 28 runs in their first 10 games without Rafael Devers. 15 spot on Saturday, 15-1. They take down the Toronto Blue Jays. Chris Bassett was taking hook, line, and sinker, 9 runs, 8 of which were earned in his 2 innings of work, as he was taken deep in this one by Weiler Abreu. Wiles out for his 14th home run of the season. Then Zidane Rafaela, 9th home run of the campaign off of Paxton Schultz, and Mason Fluharty gives one up to Mr. Rami Gonzalez, 3rd home run of the campaign for Fluharty. 2 runs allowed in 1 2/3 innings. Schultz gives up 3 runs in 1 1/3 innings, including a home run. Braden Fisher, 2 scoreless innings out of the bullpen, and then you had the backup catcher, Tyler Heineman, be able to come in for an inning. He allowed a run, and for Boston, pretty good pitching display from Lucas Giolito. An unearned run, give it up in 7 innings of work, and then scoreless 8th and 9th innings from Chris Murphy to be able to polish that one off and get the job done as well. These 2 games are going on as I am recording this podcast. One is very much hanging in the balance. The Atlanta Braves currently up by a count of 2-1 over the Philadelphia Phillies, as for the Phils, they have had Jesus Luzardo go out there, give you a relatively solid start. 2 runs allowed in 5 innings, so bullpen is going to look to hold it down from there. And Spencer Schwellenbach has given up to this point 1 run in 6 innings, 10 punch-outs, only 77 pitches, so most likely not done. But for the Houston Astros, their starter was done very early in this game, as they're currently trailing by a count of 8-2, as Lance McCullers Jr. 8 runs allowed in 3 1/3 innings, including a trio of bombs. He was taken deep by Michael Busch, 14th home run of the season. Nico Horner is 3rd, and Kyle Tucker, his 17th home run of the campaign. It's how Ryan Gusto into the game for them, as the bullpen looking to hold down the fort as they're down 8-2 in the 5th inning. And Colin Ray has said it to giving up 2 runs over the course of 4 innings, including a home run to Mr. Cam Smith, his 7th home run of the campaign. And if you're looking at what we're all getting trend-wise in Major League Baseball right now, it has been very much an underwhelming season thus far this season. And even with the weather heating up, I mean, the under rate has really not been going northward at all. You've got a under rate of 52.8%, 628 unders to 561 overs. Favorites on the money line overall this season, darn near 58%, 7-11 and 5-17 on the money line, with a few games for Saturday still pending. Meanwhile, if you look at the last 7 days in Major League Baseball, 46 unders to 44 overs, so a little bit more of an underwhelming rate here, but still the overs are starting to catch a little bit of steam. And for the favorites, 51 and 42 on the money line over the last 7 days. So that's what we're seeing in baseball right now, and that's what we're getting trend-wise. Coming up next, how about if we talk about the Sunday slate, the prop market, and so much more with our good friend Matt Josephs, aka Major Matt, right here on the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now a part of the VSiN Family Podcast.
If your job at a healthcare facility includes disinfecting against viruses, you know prevention is the best medicine. And maintaining healthy spaces starts with a healthy cleaning routine. Grainger's world-class supply chain helps ensure you have the quality products you need when you need them. From disinfectants and cleaning supplies to personal protective equipment, so you can help deliver a clean bill of health. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
We're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by this man, as we've got Matt Josephs, aka Major Matt, joining me. He always does a tremendous job on the Prop Queen podcast. I know he's doing a great job with that website. Does great work over at ESPN Radio out in Richmond as well. Doing a great job on the prop front, but additionally, I know that he's getting set for some college football, college basketball as well, and that's where he gets the Twitter/X handle from, Major Matt. And Matt, always great great to get you aboard. Thank you.
Thanks for having me. We are approaching the All-Star break, looking like a fun season ahead still in Major League Baseball.
Absolutely. And man, it has been a fun season thus far, and we are getting close to these teams having played about 80 or so games, give or take a few. And just what have been some of the big takeaways that you've had from the early part of the season?
Well, so far, it seems like the Tigers are here to stay, at least for now. The Tigers have been able to continue to play well, get good pitching, get good enough hitting, and I'm sure they'll make a trade or two at the trade deadline. But I think, some people probably thought, me included, that maybe this was going to fade. We've seen teams who play hot in the start of a baseball season or any sort of season and all of a sudden kind of regress to the mean a little bit. And I don't know if the Tigers are going to be that team. Maybe they're going to stay. Obviously, look, they're ahead by a lot in that division, and as of now, they should win that division rather easily, but we'll see what happens when it carries over to the playoffs. But I've been very surprised that the Tigers are still here to stay, considering, their pitching staff is Skubal and Flaherty and a couple of other guys that have seen some, highs and some lows so far this season.
Yep, no question about it. And we are going to be getting Tariq Skubal on the bump on Sunday as well. And just how do you take a look at some of these ace pitchers like a Tariq Skubal, like a Spencer Strider, another guy that we're going to be seeing on Sunday with regards to their K-props? Because as we know, these guys are very dominant, but as we know, you also have to pay a high tax on these guys too.
It's one of those things where everybody just assumes that they're going to go over every time. It's one of those things you can see it in the NBA. You pay a tax on all the superstars. Everybody thinks LeBron's going over every game and Giannis and all this stuff. So you're going to see some high numbers. Last time out, Skubal had a K-prop of 8.5, and he had 8 strikeouts. And so he went under, but of course he had 8 strikeouts, so it was still pretty good. So I'm expecting with a Twins team that strikes out a ton against left-handed starting pitchers this season. So far, Twins are approaching 6 strikeouts per game against left-handed starting pitchers. I have a feeling we're going to see a 7.5 and 8.5. And so he may have a really good start, but he may still go under that K-prop here. So I'll be very interested. If they hang the number 2 low, a lot of people are going to take the over. If they hang the number 2 high, the over may not be as much of a best bet as it should be.
Yep, and with Tariq Skubal, he did give up a few runs in his last start against the Athletics, so I did think that was very interesting. And what else I think is very interesting is taking a look at some of these teams' home and road splits. I've been talking about this the last few days on the podcast with the Milwaukee Brewers and their offense, averaging about 3.9 runs per game at home, north of 5.6 runs per game away from home. Just a completely different offense when they've been away from home rather than at home. And how do you gauge a team like that where the split makes absolutely no sense whatsoever, but we're now halfway through the season and it's still been withstanding?
Yeah, there's trends like that have been out there and are always out there for a while. And when you do your research for these games and things like that, you ride trends like that until it ends. As we've talked about in this podcast before, there were bets that I would always make game after game. It's just I would adjust the unit size based on my confidence. For the college basketball fans, for the longest time, if you followed me on Twitter, I used to take the Toledo team total overs, and I would just adjust my unit size based on who they were playing. And so when you see Milwaukee in certain situations, you're going to play their team total overs, maybe their first 5 overs. Look, you're going to see German Marquez on Sunday, so that's a guy you kind of want to fade, especially first 5 maybe, and then a full game team total over. So I expect the Milwaukee offense to continue to succeed, especially against this bad Colorado pitching.
Yeah, man, the Colorado Rockies pitching has been a little bit rough. I do think that's interesting that German Marquez is going to be the man on the bump for Colorado, though, because maybe it's just me, but I sense a little bit of positivity coming for him. Like right now, I'm seeing this total at a 9 between the Brewers and the Colorado Rockies, and I'd be inclined to take that under because, for one, even though the Rockies have been able to rise up a little bit more with their offense, it's still a bunch that's dead last in the big leagues in terms of on-base percentage away from home. And for 2, I do think that this Brewers team might have a little bit of difficulty getting to a guy in Marquez that, even though he doesn't get a lot of strikeouts, he doesn't necessarily give up the deep ball either.
Yeah, Marquez has actually pitched well, and I use that in quotations, in his last
for Rockies terms.
Exactly, and in general, but if you look at his last 4 road starts, he gave up 0 runs in 5 2/3 in Washington, 1 run in 5 innings in Atlanta, 3 earned runs in 5 innings at Miami, and then 2 earned runs in 6 innings at Chicago. And so, you're starting to get a little bit of better from him. Obviously, these guys go a little bit longer away from Coors Field. So, yeah, it's one of those things where you also look at the history here, and nobody really has great numbers from Milwaukee against him. Now, granted, only 4 guys have seen him, and one of them's Jose Quintana, and he's not going to hit in this game. So you only have 3 guys who have seen him before, but those 3 guys don't exactly have great numbers against Marquez either in their history.
Yeah, and I do think that with this Brewers team, just looking at the way that they've been hitting at home, it's just been befuddling to say the least. So maybe there's a bit of something going on there. As Matt Josephs, aka Major Matt, is joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show, and I know you do a great job of being able to analyze the Philadelphia Phillies. And I was mentioning Spencer Strider in passing, and right now for the Phillies, we're finding them right around about plus 115 to plus 120 underdogs against Atlanta with a total of 8.5. And Ranger Suarez has been a really good bet on pitcher over the last few weeks. I mean, it wasn't his fault that he didn't get the job done on Tuesday against the Astros. He did his part, and offense provided him with 0 runs. But how do you take a look at this game between the Phillies and the Braves with the way that Suarez has been pitching?
Yeah, Suarez has been amazing, and he's a guy that you know is going to go long into games. I mean, look at this month alone: 7 2/3, 7-7, 7-6.
6+ innings in each of his last 9 starts.
Yeah, it's been impressive. I'm guessing we're going to see his outs total be closer to 19.5, maybe 20.5. Usually that number's reserved for Logan Webb, who we also know at times goes deep in games. He's a guy that's pitched really well. One of those starts was at home against Atlanta. He's not necessarily intimidated by pitching in Atlanta. A couple of years ago in the playoffs, he pitched really well in Atlanta, and then, saw them at home in the 2023 postseason. So, the interesting thing here is several Braves have really good numbers against him. Austin Riley has really good numbers against him. Ozzie Albies has really good numbers. Marcell Ozuna. There's guys that have really good numbers, and there's guys that have really bad numbers against him. So you'll kind of have to balance that out when you're looking at that lineup. And then Spencer Strider, I feel like he's getting back to what he used to be. And who knows what kind of Phillies lineup you're going to get. I mean, is it the Phillies lineup that was in Houston? They scored no runs against starting pitching and 1 run overall. Or is it going to be the Phillies who put up 10 runs on the Braves on Friday night? So it's a really tough lineup to kind of bet on. Ironically, the guy with the best numbers in the Phillies lineup against Spencer Strider is Brandon Marsh, who really has been all over the place so far this season. He's hitting a little bit better as of late, but it's really crazy with the lineup of Schwarber and Castellanos and all these guys. The best numbers against Strider come from Brandon Marsh.
Yeah, that is very interesting because Brandon Marsh has had a little bit of an up-down all-around sort of season for this Philadelphia Phillies team. And with the Phillies in general, that is the biggest trepidation that I've had with them. We're doing this prior to their game on Saturday against the Atlanta Braves, but it just feels like it's been Kyle Schwarber being able to crush a bunch of homers. Trey Turner, to his credit, is up to 11 home runs, but outside of that, it's just been a really lack of power, even though you've had a few guys being a move line. I just think that it's been very stark in the way that we just have not seen anyone outside of Kyle Schwarber really crank out the deep ball.
It's one of these lineups, in the past couple of years, we had always said, they rely on the deep ball. They don't really get the singles that they need in certain situations. Now it's the complete opposite. They don't get the home runs they need. Now they're relying on having to get 3 or 4 singles potentially to score a bunch of runs. And of course, without Bryce Harper in the lineup, that kind of shrinks things just a little bit. I'll say this. I think Otto Kemp has been absolutely tremendous since being called up from the minors. And, they may call up Justin Crawford at some point. I think it's interesting that Max Kepler is complaining about playing time, and he started the majority of the game so far this season. But this is a Phillies lineup that when they're hot, they're hot. You play their overs, their team total overs, but when they're cold, they are ice cold. And we saw that it's the tale of two cities. Houston, they couldn't do anything. Atlanta, so far, they've done a lot. Now we'll see what they do against Schwellenbach on Saturday, but I don't expect a ton of runs in Atlanta against Strider on Sunday. But, when they come back home and face that San Diego pitching and that Cincinnati pitching at home, I expect their offense to kind of wake up a little bit in that situation.
Yep, and I did take the under in that game between the Phillies and the Atlanta Braves as well. I think that Strider is going to look rock solid. I think that Ranger Suarez is going to continue to do what Ranger Suarez has. As Matt Josephs, aka Major Matt, is joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show. And I know that we've had a lot of conversations over the years about Cal Quantrill. It used to be a few years ago where he was so reliable for going over his outs prop. This year, not so much. 5 innings or fewer in each out of his last 5 starts, facing off against the Arizona Diamondbacks, albeit a bunch without Corbin Carroll. But that said, with the Diamondbacks, they're a pretty demonstrative favorite, total of 9 to 9.5. I think that you might be willing to play here with a guy in Cal Quantrill that just is a bit of a different pitcher than what we saw in past years.
Yeah, it's a shame. As you said, he used to be an outs guy. Now he's reliable in a different direction. He goes 5 max. That's pretty much it. That's what Cal Quantrill does. And so, it's funny. 1 or 2 starts ago, I think it's last start, I was looking at the live lines and they had over 50.5 for his outs, and the under was a reasonable juice. And so I took the under. And of course, the Marlins just know that they only want him going 5. It used to be Jansen Junk who kind of butted up against him and pitched the rest of the innings. Now they're, kind of piecing things together. But Quantrill's been okay. He's getting some strikeouts in certain situations. He's given up some runs, but we know he's only going to go a max of 5 innings. And then Eduardo Rodriguez, another guy who's just a veteran who's kind of pitching been okay so far this season. He's had his good starts. He's had his bad starts. This might be an over. This might be a situation where we see a lot of base runners. This might be a situation where we kind of see some runs in both directions. Now, of course, I always like to caution people when it comes to Sundays, make sure to check the lineups beforehand because, teams like to sit players. Some teams use bench lineups on Sunday. So as always, I like to caution people to say, like, look, but you may like an over, you may like an under, but you may not get the lineup that matches what you want. Just make sure to get the lineup in before you make any sort of wager in this situation.
Yep, I do think that is always so important to be doing, especially on Sundays, because you just never know when a catcher, prime example of it, is going to get a little bit of a day off to be able to recoup, to be able to reload for the next day. So I always do think that that's really important to be doing. And I think that this team is very interesting as well, because I know you've talked a lot in the past about the Washington Nationals, how they've been a little bit different this year. And now they go up against a guy in Jack Kachanowicz, who I think is one of the worst starting pitchers out there in all of baseball. Right now, the Nationals, slight underdogs, total of 9.5. How do you take a look at this one? Because something that has been yielding a lot of fruit has been the under on Mitchell Parker's K-props, because he can't strike anyone out to save his life.
Yeah, this is an interesting game because it's the long road trip ending. And so, I'm wondering what kind of effort we get from the Nationals. They were in LA against the Dodgers. Then they went to San Diego. Now they're back taking on the Angels, and they're going to head home on July 1st and begin a homestand. But I'm always leery, especially of lineups, long road trips, certainly out on the West Coast where this team has been out there. And yeah, I don't love Kachanowicz. I'll be interested to see what his K-prop is. It could be 2.5, could be 3.5. And he's kind of slowly gone over some of those games because he's had some of these efforts where he's had 4, 5, or 6 strikeouts. So I'll be interested to see there. And then on the other side, you mentioned Mitchell Parker. He's a guy that doesn't strike out a lot of guys, but you've got an Angels team that is averaging 6.42 strikeouts per game against left-handed starting pitching. I'll be very fascinated to see what the number is, because you can't go too high with a guy like Parker because, as you said, he doesn't get a lot of strikeouts, but you can't go too low because the Angels lineup is very bad against lefties when it comes to that situation. So the odds makers have a tough one on their hand when they set that number coming up on Sunday.
Yep, they certainly do. And with the LA Angels lineup, how have you been able to gauge them recently? Because it does feel like they're so all or nothing with the way that their on-base percentage, bottom 3 in the big leagues, but top 3 in the big leagues in terms of home runs on a per-at-bat basis.
This is a team that takes advantage of some bad pitching. And you look at the last 6 starts, starting pitchers have given up 5 earned runs or more in 4 of those 6 starts. And, some decent ones in that mix. This is another one of those things where, when you chart these things out, so Ariel and I have a K-prop chart that we talk about runs allowed and hits allowed and stuff like that, to be able to visually look at this sort of thing and see hey, this team's really hot, they keep it going for a week or two, or this team's really cold, they have bad efforts for about a week or two. Visually seeing that sort of thing is very important because, baseball's a long season and there's so many markets to take advantage of. So I highly recommend people try and track as much as they can in this sort of situation, and because you really notice these things that you may not notice when you look at the box scores by themselves. You've got to have spreadsheets and things like that to help you out.
Yeah, but I think that that's so important to be doing. And Matt, anything else that you're going to be taking a look at on this baseball Sunday, whether that's something that you're going to fire in on, or maybe it's not even a bet that you're going to place, but just something that you want to see in general?
The Yankees-A's game is going to be interesting. Stroman coming off of a couple of rehab starts where he wasn't very good. The key also is he only went 3 2/3 for his longest start, and that was for Somerset. And I'm not 100% sure, but it's definitely not at AAA, I think. But he didn't pitch well in his 3 rehab starts, and he didn't go deep, which means the books won't give us an outs prop, unfortunately, which means the K prop's going to be low. I want to see what Stroman does. Frankie Montas was in the same situation. He was terrible in his rehab starts, and he had 5 strikeouts against the Braves. So we'll have to see what Stroman does against the Athletics. And of course, Luis Severino facing his former team. He's not getting a lot of strikeouts lately, so we'll see what happens there. And, there's some other interesting things. The Dean Kremer, Taj Bradley matchup. Taj Bradley is a guy that you'll know early if he's on or not. Dean Kremer pitches better at home for the most part in that sort of situation. And then, of course, Justin Verlander, can he continue to pitch okay for the Giants, to continue to work his way back? Second start since coming off the paternity list, 3rd or 4th start since coming off the IL. What can Justin Verlander do in Chicago? And, of course, as always, I like to caution people, please make sure to check the weather. It is the summer. Summer storms pop up. Summer temperatures are rising up. So, therefore, you might see some more runs. Make sure to check out the weather forecast as well as the lineups for on Sunday. before making any sort of wager.
And you might get some rain delays as well. And if you get a prolonged rain delay, guy goes 3 innings and then he can't go anymore, that's very, very good to the under. And a man that is very good to us is you, Matt. You do such an incredible job. Take a look at all things on the prop market front. You do a great job gauging college basketball, college football, and so much more. So let the good people know what's all on tap for you and how people can follow along on social media and other platforms.
Yeah, really excited for the coming of the college football season. That means I start doing my win totals for every team in America, and I have my Phil Steele magazine in my hand, so the research has begun, or continued at least. So we're looking forward to that. And of course, any baseball props, I post them all on my Twitter account. I post batter versus hitter, notable players that you should probably target in DFS at Mid-Major Matt on Twitter. And certainly I notice that you get a lot of questions, whether it's first threes, first fives, pitcher props, player props. You could certainly ask me those because I will try and help, because we all have the same goal. We all want to beat the books.
Absolutely. Matt does a great job of being able to pull that off and so much more every single time Matt joins me. Lends such great insight. So big thanks to Matt for joining me on the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. And coming up next, it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Sunday as we touch them all.
If your job at a healthcare facility includes disinfecting against viruses, you know prevention is the best medicine. And maintaining healthy spaces starts with a healthy cleaning routine. Grainger's world-class supply chain helps ensure you have the quality products you need when you need them. From disinfectants and cleaning supplies to personal protective equipment, so you can help deliver a clean bill of health. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball, this is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by Matt Josephs, a.k.a. Mid-Major Matt. Does such an excellent job taking a look at this great game that we all know and love of baseball. And every single time he joins me, lends such great insight. So big thanks to Matt for joining me in the last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Sunday as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Do note that as per usual, any changes that are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter/X feed at @GUnit_81, and we are going to be going in the Las Vegas rotation order. This is where we go with the National League games first, then the American League games, any Interleague games. Those are going to be at the bottom. That'll keep things all nice, neat, clean, and easy. So how about if we do get things started with 9-1, 9-2 on the card? It is the Philadelphia Phillies on the road against the Atlanta Braves. Spencer Strider goes for the Bravos. Ranger Suarez is on the bump for the Phils. Phils are anywhere between plus 112 to plus 118. Minus 130 to minus 137 is that number on Atlanta. And total on this game is 8.5. The over and the under anywhere between minus 105 to a minus 115. And I'm going to be willing to ride with the Phillies here. With the Phillies, I was willing to take pretty much anything of a plus 105 or better. And this is a Phillies lineup that has been a little bit rough, to say the least. But you know what? You've got Kyle Schwarber out there who's been able to give you 24 home runs. And you still have a lot of guys who have been able to move the line. Now Trey Turner has been able to give you 10 home runs. Nick Castellanos, Alec Boehm, owing at least a 275. You could use a little bit more of JT Realmuto, but he's been better over the last few weeks. Armando Sosa has been rough, not gonna lie to you, but I mean, still, for the Philadelphia Phillies, despite the fact that you don't have Bryce Harper in the fold, you still have plenty of firepower, you still have plenty of guys that get on base, and that should be enough for Ranger Suarez. Ranger Suarez has been absolutely tremendous since his first start of the season, where he gave up 7 runs at a little bit north of 3 innings, but I mean, ever since that rough first start, he has allowed, I believe now, 9 runs, 8 of which have been earned over the course of his last 9 starts, a 1.170 ERA in this time span, and has just been absolutely dominant both at home and on the road. Meanwhile, for Spencer Strider, coming into his own, he has had 29 strikeouts over his last 3 starts, totaling 17 innings. He has given up 4 earned runs in this time span after his first few starts coming off the injury list. They were relatively rough, but you do have an Atlanta Braves team that has still not been the world's greatest team in terms of just being able to give you production and being able to give you run scoring. This team is about league average with regards to on-base percentage. Ronald Acuna Jr. has been great. 9 home runs, and he's been able to give you north of a 450 on base in his first month or so of the season. So you do like to be able to see that. And then additionally, you've got Matt Olson, who's starting to give you a little bit more boom. He's been able to give you 15 home runs, hovering in that neighborhood about a 350 or so on base percentage. But I mean, from there, you've had a few guys who have been up and down. Sean Murphy, Ozzie Albies thrown there as well. Michael Harris, who have been hitting a 235 or lower. For Murphy, he does have 9 home runs, but Brooks Baldwin has been the by far better catcher in terms of moving the line, getting on base. Nick Allen at the bottom lineup has been a little bit rough, though. You've been able to get some good production out of Marcell Ozuna, who's giving you north of a 360 on base, double-figure amount of bombs along with Austin Riley, and his 12 home runs. And for the Atlanta Braves, they are going to have the leg up with regards to the bullpen. This team has been a top 8 team with regards to bullpen ERA ever since the beginning of the month of May, even with Desmond Hernandez on the injury list. You've got the likes of Pierce Johnson, Aaron Bummer, Dylan Lee, who will be able to give you a sub-350 ERA. Rossio Iglesias, it's been a disaster, but you know what? You're getting the job done there. And then for the Philadelphia Phillies, Ryan Kerkering has been able to give you a sub-3 ERA. Past that, it's been rough for this bullpen. The likes of Tanner Banks, Matt Strahm, Jordan Romano, they're all posting up well north of a 3.50 ERA. Taijuan Walker has been rough in long relief as well. But overall, I do take a look at Ranger Suarez. Should be able to go out there, get the job done. Here at north of plus 110, I'm going to be willing to ride with that Phillies money line. And I think that Strider and Suarez both line good starts. Semi-total at 8.2. I like the under. 903, 904 on the betting board. The New York Mets are on the road against the Pittsburgh Pirates, as it is Mike Burrows who walks the plank for the Buccos, and one Frankie Montas is on the bump for the Mets. Mets are between minus 150 to minus 160 favorites, between plus 120 to plus 136. That number on Pittsburgh, 9.5 is the total. Under is between minus 110 to a minus 120. Over is between even a minus 110. And for Montas, set him at a minus 138. So if we could get to like a plus 138, which I'm thinking once we get the dime lines, we should be able to get that. That'll line me on the Pittsburgh Pirates on the money line. And if you're looking at a very initial run line with regards to this one to lay a run at with the New York Mets, you're going to be finding that right in the neighborhood about a plus 114, which honestly isn't the world's worst value. I would need a little bit closer to plus 120, but I do think that the added value is going to be on the Pirates, with Mike Burrows actually looking relatively solid in his last 5 appearances. I recognize that one of them was coming out of the bullpen, but for Mike Burrows, overall for the season, he has been rocking an ERA that's been more around about a 4.45, but over his last 5 appearances, he has allowed just 7 runs, has been able to round into form, north of 8.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. And then for Frankie Montas, he had north of 12 ERA at the minor league level, where he was making his minor league rehab starts. But I first started the season against the Atlanta Braves, 5 scoreless innings, 5 punchouts. He really rounded into form, and he goes up against the Pittsburgh Pirates lineup that is currently dead last in the National League in terms of runs per game. You've got 3 guys on the roster that are giving you north of 4 home runs this season. That would be Mr. Brian Reynolds along with Oniel Cruz. Andrew McCutchen are all there, and with Oniel Cruz and so many others on this team, you're just not getting any sort of batting average whatsoever. As he, Tommy Pham, Alexander Canario, Henry Davis, whole bunch of guys hitting below a 225. Jared Trollo has been a disaster, and for the Pirates, they have had a saving grace of the bullpen, as you've had David Benner, after a rough start to the season, really start to round into form. Caleb Ferguson right around about a 3 ERA. Braxton Ashcraft has been a good long guy with a sub-2 ERA. Dennis Santana has been able to give you a sub-2. So, they've been able to do a good job there. And for the New York Mets, this is a top 10 team as well. In terms of bullpen ERA, you've got Jose Buto along with Oscar Barzobin, both give you a sub-3 ERA. You've had good production as well out of Reed Garrett, Edwin Diaz, the short guys. And for the Mets, this is a top 8 offense in terms of run creation, because you do have a quartet of guys with 15-plus home runs. Brandon Nimmo, Juan Soto, Pete Alonso, Francisco Lindor. And Soto, all of a sudden, 20 bombs and a 400 on base. He is rounded into form. Linder has been playing through a injury, but he's still been solid. And then you do have a few guys that could pick it up a little bit. Brett Beatty hitting only about a 230 has been rough. They've had Mark Vientos in and out of the lineup the last few weeks. Ronnie Mauriciano is very much a better fielder than he is a hitter right now, but I do look at this spot. I do think that the Mets should be more like a minus 138 favorite, so plus 139 or higher. Looking at the Buccos, and semi-total at 8.3. I just don't know where the scoring is going to be coming from in this game, so I like that under, along with the money line of the Pirates. 9-5, 9-6 on the card. The Slam Diego Padres are on the road against the Cincinnati Reds, and yes, we're on to Cincinnati, who's on to Nick Lodolo getting the start for them. Stephen Kolek goes for the San Diego Padres. Padres are a underdog of anywhere between plus 112 to a plus 118, minus 130 to minus 137 is that number on Cincinnati. 9 is the total. Over is between minus 110 to a minus 120. The under is between even a minus 110. And for the Reds, did set their money line price at a minus 126 if you're looking to lay a run half with them. Again, initial FanDuel opener, so this is going to be janky. I'm finding that at a plus 168, and sign me up there. I was willing to take a plus 155 or higher with regards to this Reds run line. I feel very good about that one. And for Nick Lodolo, it's a case where his swing and miss stuff has been way down, but he's also been able to reduce on the walks this season. Lodolo's only giving up about 2 walks per 9 innings. The swing and miss stuff, only about 8 strikeouts per 9 innings. You could use a little bit more there, but all in all, he's been able to do a solid job being able to hold down the fort, and he's been able to keep the ball in the yard relatively solidly as well. 1.2 home runs allowed per 9 innings, and over his last 5 starts, 3 runs or fewer allowed in 4 of them. And Flip side, you do have yourself a guy in Steven Kolek, who already has a complete game under his belt, albeit it was against the Colorado Rockies, but he does have a complete game under his belt, does a pretty solid job in terms of not creating mistakes that hurt himself. Now, this has been a guy that has not been getting a lot of swings and misses, only about 6.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, up to about 3.2 walks per 9, but it's giving up 0.8 home runs per 9 innings. Has been in a little bit of a funk, giving out 3+ runs in each out of his last 3 starts, but I do think that he's going to be backed up really well by a bullpen that has been one of the best out there in all of baseball. Even with Robert Suarez blowing a few saves over the last few weeks, this is a Padres team that is a top 5 team with regards to bullpen ERA. If you have the likes of a Jason Adam, Yuki Matsui, Adrian Barahone, who'll be able to give you a sub 3.50 ERA. Jeremiah Estrada has been a little bit rough, but he's still been pretty rock solid as well. And for the San Diego Padres, this has been a lineup that has been relatively pedestrian this year. They're right around about league average in terms of their runs per game, though. You do have a trio of guys that have been able to give you at least 12 home runs thus far this season. That would be Kevin Sheets, Manny Machado, Fernando Tatis Jr. Tatis Jr. and Machado both give you north of 345 on base. Sheets has been able to hit about a 260. Xander Bogaerts has been a little bit better recently, but still 4 home runs at a 320 on base. You pay him that money for a little bit more than that. Jake Cronenworth about a 350 on base. He's been able to give you a little bit of pop, but catcher spot in the outfield has been a little bit of a sore spot for these San Diego Padres. And even though the Cincinnati Reds are a team that does rank at the top 10 in terms of runs per game, I do still have my fair question marks with them. Elly De La Cruz has been amazing. 18 home runs. He's giving you north of 20 stolen bases, so that's been incredible. And do have a pair of guys who have been able to give you north of 355 on base. Gavin Lux, CJ Friedel. Friedel is up to 8 home runs, but De La Cruz, lone guy on the roster with 10+ home runs this season. Spencer Steer had that 3 home run game on Friday, so that hopefully gets him going a little bit more. And Jose Trevino is hitting for about a 300 as well. It's a Reds bullpen that is about league average. It's nothing great, nothing terrible. They have a deal with Graham Ashcraft being on the injured list. That's one of their main long guys, but still have had the likes of Tony Santillan, Lyon Richardson, Taylor Rogers, all being able to give you a sub 3.25 ERA. I mean, Bagan with regards to ERA is not bad either, but just gives up a little bit too much hard contact, and I do think that in the end for the Cincinnati Reds, they are going to be able to get a good start of Nick Lodolo. I would be willing to take that run line at north of plus 155 on the Reds, and I'm in on the under, so I might sell it at 8.9. Down to 7.908 on the betting board, the Colorado Rockies. At the road, they're facing off against the Milwaukee Brewers as Chad Patrick is on the bump for the Crew, and Otoman Marquez goes for Colorado. Colorado between plus 198 to plus 210, minus 235 to minus 250. That number on the Crew. 9 is the total, but you've got very heavy juice on the under. The under is a minus 125. The over is a plus 105, and seeing an 8.5 coming onto the board. That over is minus 120, and the under is even. I did set my total here at 8.3. I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the under. Recognize that the Colorado Rockies offense has been a little bit better on the road in recent weeks, but they're still dead last overall for the season in terms of road on base percentage. They've been able to get a little bit more out of a few of these guys, but Ryan McMahon still hitting below the Mendoza 200 when he has been on the road this far this season, and I mean, it's just been a rough situation in general in terms of what you've gotten out of Brenton Doyle is hitting below a 200 overall for the season. You just take a look up and down the boulevard for the Colorado Rockies and the lineup that they trotted out there on Saturday. All but one of their final 5 hitters hitting a 226 or lower. You have been able to get quite a bit out of Jordan Beck, who's been able to give you 8+ home runs, and Hunter Goodman when he's out there. Double-figure amount of homers on the road. Tyler Freeman has been able to above a 300, but for the Brewers, they do a nice job of just finding a way to move the line. Now, I will say for the Brewers, very interesting split. About 3.9 runs per game at home, about 5.6 runs per game away from home. That's one of the most demonstrative things I've seen, and I mean, it's just a case where with the Milwaukee Brewers, it makes no sense whatsoever, because American Family Field is about as neutral as it gets, but I mean, they've got a lot of guys that just find a way to be able to get on base. Bryce Terang, Christian Yelich, Jackson Chourio, Sal Frelick, all these guys have been able to give you a double-figure amount of stolen bases, and you've got Terang now hitting a 290 for this bunch. Yelich has been able to give you 15 home runs. Chourio, though he doesn't give you too much on base, 13 home runs. Rhys Hoskins, a double-figure amount of bombs, and for the Brewers, it does feel like they're starting to, shall we say, straighten things out with regards to bullpen, as they were expecting Yo Payamps, Elvis Figueroa to be able to extend off the success that they had a season ago, but I mean, these two guys did not pan out, so now you've got Rob Zanofsky, Abner Uribe, Trevor McGill, all give you a sub-3 ERA, and for Chad Patrick, it's been an up-down, all-around sort of season, 3.72 ERA. If you look specifically when he's been a starter, he's been giving you more of a 3.50 ERA. Last few starts have been less than savory, giving up 4+ runs in each out of the last 3, but and he's still still does a relatively solid job of not giving up a lot of, shall we say, super duper hard contact. He's been able to keep things out in front of him without giving up a ton of walks. His strikeout stuff is leaving a little bit of something to be desired, but it's rising up. 9 strikeouts at 2.9 walks per 9 innings. And then on the flip side, you do have a gentleman in Mr. German Marquez, who I think he should be doing for some positivity. He's been getting banged around like a piñata. If you look at the hits per 9 rate, that is nearly 12 hits allowed per 9 innings, but he's giving up less than a home run per 9 innings, 5.79 ERA, 4.10 fielding dependent. So circumstance where I do think that for the Colorado Rockies, they're going to be able to do enough for being able to hold the under, especially with these guys like Jimmy Harrigan, along with Victor Vodnik in the bullpen, throwing there Jake Berg giving you a sub-4 ERA. Did some I told at 8.3. I like the under. And for the Brewers, I did set their run line price at a minus 138. Right now, that initial FanDuel opener is minus 111, so sign me up on that run line. 9-9, 9-10 on the betting board. The Miami Marlins are on the road. They're facing off against the Arizona Diamondbacks. Eduardo Rodriguez is on the bump for the D-backs, and Cal Quantrill is on the bump for the Marlins. And with the Marlins, you're going to be finding them as a pretty sizable underdog here. You're going to be getting them between plus 158 to a plus 167, minus 178 to minus 190 is that number in Arizona. 9 is the total. The over is minus 115. The under is minus 105. And with regards to Arizona, I did set them at a minus 196 on the money line. I'd be willing to go pretty much to a minus 104 better with regards to laying a run half. Right now, that initial FanDuel opener on the run line is plus 102. Any sort of plus money, I am in. For Eduardo Rodriguez, it has been a rough season for him. He is posting up an ERA that is north of 5, but you take a look at what he's been able to do ever since he's come off the injury list, and he's been a pretty rock-solid pitcher. As for Mr. Eduardo Rodriguez, the swing and miss stuff has always been pretty rock-solid for him, and it's back this far this season. As for Eduardo Rodriguez, he's been posting up nearly about 9.5 to 10 strikeouts per 9, and he's still giving up about 3.2 walks per 9, but in his 4 starts since he's come off the injury list, he has allowed a grand total of 5 earned runs, 6 runs in total, so he's been able to do a nice job there. And you got a Miami Marlins team that has been a little bit better with their hitting on the road rather than at home, but it's a bottom 4 team in the big leagues in terms of home runs on a per at-bat and a per-game basis. You've got a pair of guys in Augustin Ramirez, Kyle Sowers, who have been able to give you 11 plus home runs thus far this season, and you've got plenty of guys that do a nice job finding a way on base, being able to move the line in general, as you've been able to have Eric Wagaman be able to hit about a 250. You've got Xavier Edwards at the top of the fold, give you a 360 on base. Even Jesus Sanchez rising up a little bit. When Dane Myers is out there, he's sitting at 300. Liam Hicks, we're going to give him some credit, 360 on base, but on the flip side, you've got an Arizona Diamondbacks team that does rank at the top 3 in the big leagues in terms of runs per game. They are without Corbin Carroll, but you get back Eugenio Suarez, 25 plus home runs. He's out hitting for north of a 250. Ketel Marte of the Marte Parte, 16 bombs and less than 200 at bats, north of 400 on base. Geraldo Perdomo, 360 on base. You've been able to get some good production as well recently of Randall Grichuk, who's going to be seeing more at bats with the Corbin Carroll injury. Now for the Arizona Diamondbacks, the bullpen has been all sorts of brutal for this team, as you've got a bunch that's trying to just hold down the fort for as long as A.J. Puck and Kendall Graveman are out of the fold. Ryan Thompson, along with Juan Barillo, these 2 guys have been giving you north of 4 ERA. They've been trotting out there some mix and match guys like Anthony DeSclafani, Taylor Scott. They have not panned out. Chubby Miller, Jalen Beeks have been able to give you a sub-4 ERA. And for the Miami Marlins, this has been a bottom 10 team in the big leagues in terms of their bullpen ERA. Like Picard giving you north of 4 ERA has been rough. You've had Anthony Bender along with Ronnie Enriquez be able to give you sub-350 ERA, but Calvin Fauché has been all over the place as a closer as well. And for Cal Quantrill, this is a guy that very much is going to be pitching to a lot of contact, has never really been a high strikeout artist. I will say he found his form, it felt like, towards like late May, early June, but ever since then it's been up, down, all around. He has allowed at least 3 runs in 2 out of his last 3 starts. Overall for the season, 5.56 ERA, more of a 4.60 fielding dependent, about 6.8 strikeouts and 2.8 walks per 9 innings. He's not going to put too many guys on cheaply, but he's also not giving you a lot of length. 5 innings or fewer in each of his last 5 starts, so that's a lot of bullpen exposure here. So this is a circumstance where I sub by total 9.3. I like the over, and I do like the D-backs on the run line. 9-11, 9-12 on the board. The Athletics are on the road against the New York Yankees, as Marcus Stroman is on the bump for the Yankees, and Luis Severino is on the bump for the Athletics. And for the Athletics, they are between plus 158 to plus 167, and between minus 183 to minus 184. That number on the Yanks, 9 to 9.5 is the total on the 9. Over is minus 120, the under is even on the 9.5. The under is minus 120, and the over is even. And I did set the Yankees on the money line at a minus 174. If you're looking to lay a run half, I was willing to take a plus 110 or better on the Yankees. Right now, that's at a minus 102. So I'm thinking in some forward capacity, I'm going to land on the A's. That might be getting a run half at like a minus 110 or better. That might be the money line. We shall see where the movement is going to be in the AM. But for Marcus Stroman, he's coming off the injury list, and he's never been particularly good at Yankee Stadium, and that's a big, giant issue. As for Marcus Stroman, when he was out there earlier in the season, just got barbecued in his 3 appearances. 5.57 ERA. He gave up in 9 1/3 innings a pair of bombs, and you even take a look last year with the Yankees. He busted up a 4.31 ERA, but at home he was just absolutely terrible. You go back to the 2024 numbers because we just don't have a lot of data from 2025, but I mean, when he was out there at Yankee Stadium, 5.31 ERA with about 1.6 home runs per 9 innings. And then for Luis Severino, he's actually been really good when he's been on the road this year. Now, that is going to be beginning to dry up, and he entered into his last start on the road with a 0.93 ERA. Then he gets blown up for 7 runs in 5 innings against the Detroit Tigers. Overall for the season, 4.83 ERA. For field independent, he's giving up less than a home run per 9 innings, but I mean, on the road, he's still giving you a sub-250 ERA. On the road, he's only given up 2 home runs thus far this season, so I do like what I'm seeing there, and this is an A's team that just overall, they pitch better on the road rather than at home. They are still dead last in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. You really don't have anyone that's able to give you good innings other than Hogan Harris. He's the only guy that has seen north of 7 appearances out of the bullpen that has an ERA that is below a 4, but you know what? Mason Miller should be able to round into form. They were able to do a nice job of saving the bullpen yesterday with having Mr. Perkins come in for 3+ innings in long relief. You're still not going to be able to get too much out of the likes of TJ McFarland, Tyler Ferguson, what have you, but you know what? For this Athletics team, you do have some guys that are supplying the boom. Jacob Wilson continues at the 340, starting to draw a few more walks as well, so that's a positive. Brent Rooker, Tyler Soderstrom, these two guys have been able to combine for 31 home runs this season. You've had Nick Kurtz be able to now give you 12 bombs. He's up to about a 320 on base. Luis Urias is moving the line along with Austin Wynns, and for the New York Yankees, the team has now scored 4 runs or fewer in 13 out of their last 16 games. It's really becoming rampant for the team. You do have Aaron Judge, who's been giving you a 455 on base with 27+ home runs, and I mean, you still have Paul Goldschmidt moving the line, but he's been in regression, and as he's been in regression, the Yankees have been. Not necessarily giving you a ton of power, but 345 on base thus far this season. Jazz Chisholm, he's got up to a double-figure amount of bombs, and since coming off the injury list, he's been able to for a little bit more average, but DJ LeMay, who you signed Dominguez at the bottom, full hitting about a 250. You could use probably a little bit more there, and then Ben Rice has been really slowing down since a nice start to the season. We'll say this about the Yankees. Bullpen has been pretty rock solid for this team, as you've got Yuri De Los Santos, you're getting back Luke Weaver, throwing there as well. A guy like a Tim Hill giving you a sub-350 ERA. Ian Hamilton has been a little bit of a disaster, but I mean, they certainly should outgun the A's there, but with Marcus Stroman, just not a lot of faith in him getting the job done here. Did somebody tell him 9.2. Personally, I would rather take a 9 over rather than a 9.5 under, even with the Yankee struggles, but I did think that we're going to mostly get 9.5 and a 9.5. I'd be looking at the under end for the A's plus 175 or higher. Sign me up on that money line. 9.13, 9.14 on the card. The Toronto Blue Jays are on the road against the Boston Red Sox. Walker Buehler is on the bump for Boston. Eric Lauer is on the bump for Toronto, and Toronto is between minus 115 to a minus 125. Between plus 101 to a plus 110 is that number on Boston, and Toronto's game is 9.5. The over is minus 120, and the under is even. I did make the Red Sox the slimmest of favorites here at a minus 102, so I'm going to be looking at them on the money line. I recognize that this has been a no good, very bad, terrible season for Mr. Walker Buehler, as right now he is posting up an ERA that is touching about 6.23 to be exact. His home runs per 9 rate has ballooned to about 1.8, but for Buehler, what he's been able to do a good job of is pitching at Fenway. 3.31 ERA with 1.1 home runs allowed per 9 innings in Boston, and on the flip side, you got a Toronto Blue Jays team that hasn't necessarily been able to generate a lot of offense when they've been away from home. Fewer than 3.9 runs per game. They are a bottom 7 team in the big leagues with regards to runs per game away from home, and you do have a Blue Jays lineup that just has been really lacking the deep ball this season. They're in the bottom 7 of the big leagues in terms of home runs on a per at-bat basis. You have been able to have a trio of guys be able to get 10 plus home runs this season. Bo Bichette, Flagler Jr., along George Springer, and Springer's up to about a 350 or so with regards to his on-base percentage, but this is a Blue Jays team that they are very much relying upon station-to-station baseball. Don't call his name Alejandro Kirk, along with Ernie Clement, have been able to hit above a 300. You've got Miles Straw has been able to hit about a 265 as well. Edison Barger is moving the line, but just lacking that overall firepower, and the Blue Jays really had to dive into that bullpen yesterday, as Chris Bassett was taking hook, line, and sinker for 2 innings, so these guys like Braden Fisher, Mason Flaherty, and company may not be fully available for this one, and Fisher, a sub-225 ERA, they had to have him throw quite a few innings yesterday, so that's a little bit of an issue for you, but Eric Lauer has actually been really good for the Blue Jays. Now, I recognize that the fielding depends more around about a 380, but 222 ERA, giving up 1.1 home runs per 9 innings, 9 punch-outs per 9, giving up about 3 walks per 9 as well. That's a little bit of an issue. You are going up against a Red Sox team that entered into yesterday their first 10 games without Rafael Devers, scoring a combined 28 runs. They had just a complete, shall we say, nuclear explosion yesterday today. But that said, this has been a little bit of a rough lineup without him, as you've got Carlos Narvaez giving you about a 350 on base. Your main power bat is Weiler Abreu, wiling out for 14 home runs this season, and Trevor Story's up to 11 home runs, but 275 on base. Need a little bit more there, but these mix and match guys, Rob Refsnyder, Abraham Toro, Rami Gonzalez, have all been able to at least a 275. And the Red Sox bullpen has been in the upper half of the big leagues in terms of ERA. Recognize that things have been a little bit rough for Garrett Whitlock, who now is north of 3.5 ERA, but you've been able to have Brandon Bernardino, Justin Wilson, Aroldis Chapman, Greg Weissert, all be able to give you a sub 3.5 ERA, so they've been pretty solid with that regard. And I do think that for Eric Lauer, he's going to be able to go out there, give you a relatively solid start. So I did set my total at an 8.9. Right now we're seeing this total at a 9.5. I just feel like this is too high, even though it's going to be a little bit warmer. You're going to have some good conditions out there in Boston for hitting. I like the under, and I do like the Red Sox at plus money on the money line. 9.15, 9.16 on the betting board. The Tampa Bay Rays are on the road against the Baltimore Orioles. Dean Kramer is on the bump for Baltimore, and Taj Junko and Milton Bradley is on the bump for the Rays. The Rays do find themselves as slight underdogs, anywhere between plus 101 to minus 105, anywhere between minus 115 to minus 120 is that number on Baltimore. 9.5 to 10 is the total. On the 10, the under is minus 115, the over is minus 105. On the 9.5, over is minus 115, under is minus 105, and I did set my total 9.2. I'm going to be willing to dive in on the under for Taj Bradley. Has been a little bit of a less than savory season for him as well. I mean, this is a guy that is posting up an ERA that's hovering in the neighborhood of about a 4.57, giving up 1.2 home runs, 3.6 walks per 9 innings, but that does plummet to a 3.32 ERA, giving up less than a home run per 9 innings when he's on the road. And then for Dean Kramer, 4.60 ERA, that actually goes down to a sub 3 when he's at home. So they've been able to do a nice job holding down the fourth there. This is a Rays bullpen that just got absolutely destroyed on Friday. They were a top 5 team in terms of bullpen ERA. Now they're looking at being somewhere between 13th and 14th after that 22 spot, but I do still think that this is a rock-solid bullpen that is going to have a lot of guys coming in there and being able to hold down the fort, and the guys that got completely blown up in the game on Friday are not necessarily your trustworthy guys. So these are guys that should be good to go for this one. Eric Orze, Garrett Clevenger, Manuel Rodriguez, Pete Fairbanks, all these guys give you a sub-275 ERA. Kevin Kelly's been rock-solid as well, and for the Rays, this has been a top 10 team with regards to runs per game. Junior Caminero, Brandon Lau have been able to give you 37 home runs, and for Lau, he's been able to get Lau with about 275 average. Yandy Diaz is sitting north of 350 over the last 30 days. He's up to 12 bombs. You've got guys towards the bottom of the fold. They're starting to move the line a little bit more. Jose Calabrio only getting 225, but the 29 stolen bases is big. Chandler Simpson, he's hitting about a 280. He's giving you 20 stolen bases. You need a bit more out of the likes of Cam Misner, the entirety of the catcher spot, Taylor Walls. These guys are hitting 220 or lower, but you know what? This Rays offense has been able to come along for their eye. And for Baltimore, they were able to put up that 22 spot on Friday. They went a little bit cold on Saturday, but you know what? Being able to get back into the fold, Colton Cowser, along with Jordan Westberg, that helps you out a little bit. It's a mix and match situation with Adley Rutschman out of the fold at the catcher spot, but you've got Gary Sanchez there. Gunnar Henderson is up to hitting for about a 350 on base, and Ramon Laureano has been able to give you about a 345 on base. Not a ton of power with this team. Cedric Mullins, his 12 home runs right now leading the way, but Ryan O'Hearn, double figure amount of bombs, about a 385 on base. But this has been an Orioles bullpen that has been not great, to say the least, as far this season. Scott Blewett north of a 4.5 ERA. I will say, you've got Gregory Soto along with Sir Anthony Dominguez give you a sub 4 ERA, so you've been able to get a little bit of something there, but I still don't have a lot of faith in them. I just don't have a lot of faith in Kramer whatsoever as well. I think that Taj Bradley goes out there, gets the job done. I did set the Rays at a minus 107, so I do like them on the money line. I'm also in on the under semi total at a 9.2, 917, 918 on the card. It is the Minnesota Twins on the road against the Detroit Tigers. Tariq Skubal is on the bump for the Tigres, and you got Chris Paddock on the bump for Minnesota. Minnesota, an underdog between plus 222 to a plus 248, minus 275 to a minus 290 is that number on Detroit. 7 is the total, over and under any between minus 105 to a minus 115. That initial FanDuel opener, if you're looking to lay a run half with the old Tigres, you're going to be finding that as a pretty honestly reasonable number to lay a run half. You're going to be getting that at a minus 125, and I'd be willing to lay this number. I'd be willing to go pretty much a minus 125 and really not much else. But you know what, with Tariq Skubal, this guy is just absolutely rocking and rolling right now. Like, my goodness gracious. He has a strikeout to walk ratio that is better than 10. I recognize that he gave up a few runs in his last start against the Athletics, but I mean, even with giving up those few runs against the Athletics, he still has a 229 ERA, a fielding pennant of a 212. He's giving up 0.7 home runs per 9 innings. He has been very rock solid, steady as they come. And then on the flip side, you do have a guy in Paddock who has been very good ever since he got completely blown up in that first start of the season. He does own a 4.64 ERA, and he has been on a rough run. He has given up 4+ runs in each out of his last 3 starts, but He has in his last 15 starts given up 3 earned runs or fewer in all but 4 of them. So he's been able to round into form there. 6.5 strikeouts to 2.5 walks per 9 innings. And he does have to now face off against a Detroit Tigers lineup that has been really mashing the ball. They're a top 7 team with regards to runs per game. You've got a trio of guys who have been able to give you at least 13 home runs. You've been able to get that from Spencer Torkelson, Riley Green, and then you also throw in there what you've been able to get out of Kerry Carpenter, and it's been a case where Torkelson has not necessarily been able to hit for the world's greatest average, but he's doing a solid job of being able to move the line in terms of his on-base percentage, and then you've got quite a few guys that just find a way on. Juancio Perez is giving you a home run every 15 or so at bats. You've been able to have Gleyber Torres be able to give you north of a 380 on base. Zach McKinstry has been able to hit about a 285, so these guys have been able to do a nice job. Even Cole Keith is now giving you a bit more. If you look at the Detroit Tigers bullpen overall for the season, they're not necessarily towards the top of the big leagues in terms of their bullpen ERA. They're more around about 13th, but the top guys have been the top guys. You've got a lot of guys that you can mix and match with, and a lot of guys that can throw multiple innings for you. You see that out of Brian Herter, who's been oftentimes utilized as an opener for the team. Will Vest, Tommy Canley, throw in there Chase Lee. These have been guys that have all been able to give you a sub-3 ERA. And then on the flip side, you've got a bullpen of the Minnesota Twins that ever since the beginning of the month of May has been in the bottom 6 of the big leagues. They still have some really good top guys, like you're now getting Danny Kalum off the injured list. It's been a case where you've had Louis Varland along with Yon Dadon all be able to supply a sub-3 ERA, but these guys like Griffin Jackson Company just have been getting jacked up. It's been not great to say the least. They had to cut ties with Jorge Alcala towards the middle part of the season. Cole Sands has not been amazing. And this is a Twins lineup that is now getting a ton out of Byron Buxton. 19 bombs, 350 on base. You do like to see that. And you've got Trevor Lawrence up to 12 bombs, hitting a little bit above a 250 as well. But Matt Wallner is out moving the line for you. Even though Carlos Correa is now hitting a 260, not a lot of pop there. Ryan Jeffers has been up, down, all around above the 340 on base. And I do think that for the Detroit Tigers, they get Tariq Skubal to be in peak form. But I also think that they get to Chris Paddock, guys. Set my total at 7.2. I like the over and the Tigers up to a minus 125 with regards to our run line. 919, 920 on the betting board. It is the Seattle Mariners on the road against the Walker Texas Rangers. Jack Leiter is on the bump for the Rangers, and Luis Castillo is on the bump for Seattle. Right now, we're not finding a whole lot of openers on this game. Right now, the only one that I'm seeing is at FanDuel with Seattle at a minus 126 plus 108 with the Texas Rangers. 8.5 is the total, over and under both at minus 110, and give me the under in this spot. I set my total at 8.3 for the Texas Rangers entering into Saturday. 11 overs to 29 unders in their home games thus far this season. And I think that there's a little bit of positivity doing for the Texas Rangers lineup. That's mainly because they just can't go much further down, as you just have a whole bunch of guys that have been struggling this year. Corey Seager, since coming off the injury list, is hitting right around about the Mendoza line of a 200. You've got these guys like Marcus Semien, Adolis Garcia, Jake Berger, the currently injured Jock Peterson, all hitting at 230 or lower. I'll give you 10 home runs or fewer. You just need a bit more there. Wyatt Langford has been able to give you 13 bombs, but he's only hitting a 230 himself. Evan Carter, since coming off the injury list, has given you about a 355 on base. Shout out to Evan Carter. And then Josh Smith, he's been able to give you about a 280. The saving grace for the Texas Rangers team has been that bullpen, though. For the bullpen, they do rank at the top 8 with regards to their ERA. Now, Jacob Latz, who's been a relatively good long guy, they're stretching him out and making him a starter, but you still have these guys like a Chris Martin, Sharon Armstrong, Robert Garcia, Hobie Milner, that have been able to give you a sub 325 ERA. And flip side, you've got a Seattle Mariners team that they've been a little bit above average with regards to their bullpen. Edward Bazardo could be a little bit hit or miss along with Carlos Vargas, but Andres Munoz, Matt Brash, these two guys both have a sub 3 ERA along with Gabe Spire. And for the Seattle Mariners, this has been a top 8 team in the big leagues in terms of runs per game away from home. Big dumper Cal Raleigh is right now on pace to set an American League record for home runs, and he's giving you a 385 on base. Julio Rodriguez, Ode Polanco, both hitting between about a 245 to a 255, 11 bombs apiece. Roddy Tellez hitting for no average whatsoever, but he's able to supply 11 home runs. And then Randy Arozarena moves the line. He's able to give you a 350 on base. Along JP Crawford, north of a 390 on base out of him as well. For Luis Castillo, it's been a case where his swing and miss stuff has just fallen completely off the table. For Castillo, right now he's getting fewer than 7.5 strikeouts per 9 innings this year, but he's doing a good job of being able to keep the ball in the yard. He's been giving up about 1.2 home runs per 9 innings. I will say 369 ERA, that does climb well north of a 4 when he's away from home, but going against this Rangers team, I do think that the Mariners get the job done. Willing to lay up to a minus 135 with regards to that money line, and an 8.5 like the under, so I might tell it an 8.3. 921, 922 on the betting board. It is the St. Louis Cardinals, and they're on the road. They're facing off against the Cleveland Guardians. Logan Allen is on the bump for Cleveland, and Matthew Liberatore is on the bump for St. Louis, and St. Louis is anywhere between a minus 118 to a minus 126 favorite, plus 104 to plus 110. That number on Cleveland, 8.5 is the total, over and under both at minus 110, and for Cleveland, I set them as a very slim minus 103 favorite. I'm going to be willing to back them. Now, for Matthew Liberatore, I believe that he's doing for a lot of positivity. That ERA that he's rocking is right around about about a 4, but I mean, this guy has been able to do a nice job of really, for lack of a better term, not beating himself. He's giving up fewer than 1.6 walks per 9 innings, only about 0.7 home runs per 9 innings as well. Now, he is backed up by a lineup that ranks in the top 10 in the big leagues in terms of runs per game, not necessarily generating a whole bunch of power, but you did see Wilson Contreras go deep yesterday. He's been able to lead the way. He's now given the team 11 home runs. Brendan Donovan has been able to do a nice job moving the line. He actually had a home run yesterday as well, as he, Yohan Pozo, along with Alec Burleson, are now hitting at least a 295 for this team. Could use a little bit more out of the likes of a Nolan Gorman, Lars Nootbaar hitting below at 230, but Nootbaar is giving you about 9 plus home runs, 335 on base, and then you've had Mason Wynn doing a solid job of being able to move the line. The biggest thing for the Cleveland Guardians is that this bottom of the lineup has just been so rough for them. Lane Thomas, Bo Naylor, they had to send down to the minor leagues someone like a Brian Rocchio. Austin Hedges got the start yesterday. He's hitting well below the Bedell sign of a 200. I mean, you just go down the list of guys hitting at 225 or lower, because you got Steven Kwan, Jose Ramirez, both hitting above a 300. For Ramirez, he's done a nice job being able to put bat to ball, 13 plus home runs. And you do have Kyle Manzardo, who's got 13 home runs as well, but for Manzardo, he's only hitting about a 225 himself. Carlos Santana about 330 on base, but he's not even hitting for a lot of average as well. So, I mean, that's been a little bit rough for the Cleveland Guardians, but the Guardians bullpen, even though they didn't come through yesterday, it has been looking a little bit better recently. You've been able to get some good innings out of the likes of Hunter Gaddis along Cade Smith, both give you a sub 3.5 ERA. It's still been a rough season for Emmanuel Clase, but ever since that first month or so of the season, ever since the beginning of the month of May, it's been able to give you a sub 3.25 ERA, and this has been a St. Louis Cardinals team that has been a bit hit or miss with their bullpen. They had to use Phil Matone quite a bit yesterday, as he and Steven Matz have both been able to give you a sub 3.45 ERA. You've been able to get some good production as well of Jojo Romero, who's been rock solid, sub 3.5 ERA. I do, though, think that you're going to be able to get a relatively good start out of Logan Allen. I do think that for the Cardinals, it is a case where Liberatore gives you a solid start, but in the end, Guardians do just enough to be able to find a way to get the job done here. Did some I tell it at 8.1, so here at the 8.5, I like the under, and being able to get plus money on the Cleveland Guardians, I'm going to be willing to roll with them on the money line. 923, 924 on the betting board. The Houston Astros play host the Chicago Cubs, as Jameson Taillon is on the bump for the Cubs, and Framber Valdez goes for Houston. And Houston does find themselves as a pretty sizable favorite. You're going to be getting them anywhere between minus 148 to a minus 164. Meanwhile, you're getting for the Cubs anywhere between plus 134 to a plus 140. 7.5 is the total. The over and the under anywhere between minus 105 to a minus 115. And with regards to the Chicago Cubs, I did set them as an underdog here, more around about a plus 154. If you're looking to lay a run half with the Houston Astros on the run line, this is another FanDuel opener. You're going to be finding that at a plus 132. I'd be willing to take a plus 132. I actually set my number at a plus 132, so willing to dive in there. Framber Valdez has been absolutely rocking and rolling. 2 runs or fewer allowed in 8 out of his last 9 starts, with the lone exception giving up 3 runs. So, I mean, he has really been able to supply some amazing starts. He's giving you about 9 strikeouts per 9 innings, so right around about 3 walks per 9, but a 282 ERA, fielding independent, hovering right around 3. This guy has been the real deal, and he's backed up by a real deal bullpen as well. This is an Astros bullpen that does rank in the top 8 with regards to ERA. You've got the Bryans, Brian King, Brian Abreu, throw in there Caleb Orr, Bennett Sosa, Josh Hader, whole bunch of guys give you a sub 350 ERA. King has been a little bit hit or miss recently, but I know these guys have been able to go out there, do their job, and for the Houston Astros, lineup is starting to come along for the ride. They're still in the bottom half of the big leagues in terms of runs per game, but Isaac Paredes has been able to slug out 16 home runs. He's supplying you with about a 355 on base. You've had Chris Walker along with Yandy Diaz just needing to give you a little bit more in terms of moving the line, getting on base. Both of these guys below a 285 with regards to on base, but both of these guys have been able to give you 10 home runs, as well as Jeremy Pena has done a really good job of being able to find way on. He's hitting north of a 320. He's been able to give you about 11 bombs. Jose Altuve started to look a little bit more like the Jose Altuve of old. It's been a little bit mix or match with regards to the likes of Mauricio Dubon. They've tried it out there, Brendan Rodgers, who's been off and on injured all season long, so those guys have been an issue. But on the flip side for the Chicago Cubs, this is a team that has a lot of firepower with their lineup. I still have question marks as to whether or not this bullpen is for real, though. If you take a look ever since the beginning of the month of May, this team has been right at the top of the big leagues with regards to their bullpen ERA, with a whole bunch of guys that you wouldn't expect to be doing it. Brad Keller, Caleb Thielbar, Daniel Palencia, throw in there as well Chris Flexen, Drew Pomeranz, all these guys with a sub 205 ERA. Like, I have no idea how they're doing it right now. I do expect a little bit of regression there. And for Jameson Taillon, this guy has been getting getting banged around like a piñata this season in terms of the deep ball, especially as the overall ERA for Jameson Taillon, it's bad, but it's not necessarily atrocious, as right now he's posting up an ERA of a 4.47, but is allowing 2.1 home runs per 9 innings. That goes up to 2.6 home runs per 9 innings away from home, and away from home he has a 5.57 ERA, so less than savory there, but he is backed up by a lineup in the Chicago Cubs as number 2 in the big leagues with regards to runs per game, generating nearly 5.5 runs per contest. Seiya Suzuki along with Pete Armstrong, 21 home runs apiece. Both of these guys have been able to hit north of 255. Dansby Swanson, 14 bombs. He's not necessarily moving the line in terms of an on-base percentage, but you've got that out Kyle Tucker, 16 home runs, 390 on base. Michael Busch, 360 on base, 13 home runs. You've got Carson Kelly, who's able to give you about a 360 with regards to his on base as well, and you've been able to have Nico Horner do a nice job of being able to find a way on as well. I do think that this is going to be a little bit more of a struggle for Framber Valdez than what we've seen in recent starts because this lineup is so good. I do think that Taillon is going to be giving up his hard contact as well. So I told it at 8.2. I like the over, and for the Astros, I'm going to take plus 132 or better on that run line. 925, 926 on the betting board. The Kansas City Royals are going to be playing us to the LA Dodgers, as it is to be determined on the bump for the LA Dodgers, and Chris with K. Bubich is on the bump for the Royals. So this game is presently off the board. I'm seeing one initial opener at FanDuel. Minus 110 on the Royals, minus 106 with the Dodgers, 9.5 being the total, over at minus 120 juice, and the under at even. And if we do indeed get that total, I'd be taking a look at the under. Chris with K. Bubich has actually been very solid this far this season for the Kansas City Royals. I recognize that his last few starts have been a little bit less than savory, and you had to expect that there was going to be a little bit of regression after a fairy tale run to begin the season, but and the season numbers overall, still a 2.18 ERA. He's getting 9.5 strikeouts to fewer than 2.8 walks per 9 innings. He has kept the ball in the yard as well. He has given up just 4 home runs in 91 innings, so and he does a nice job on that front. And additionally, you've got a bullpen that does rank in the top 8 with regards to ERA. Carlos Estevez, Lucas Erceg, really good 1-2 punch in the 8th and 9th innings. Steven Cruz, along with as well someone like a Daniel Lynch, have all been able to give you a sub-3 ERA this season, and you're just not getting that out of the LA Dodgers in their bullpen. Now, Ben Kasparis has been a relatively good bulk guy whenever Shohei Ohtani has been starting, so it's not like they had to burn the entire bullpen yesterday, and it's looking like it's most likely going to be Justin Robelski either as the starter or as a bulk guy. And you do want to note that Justin Robelski has actually been much better when he's been coming out of the bullpen rather than as a starter, so I do think that that is something that you actually do want to be noting here, because if you see Robelski as a starter, it's been a case where he's been posting up well north of 5 ERA in that starter's role. Coming out of the bullpen, it's actually gone down to a sub-3 ERA, so it's been a pretty big difference maker for this bunch, and I do think that for the LA Dodgers, it's just big to be able to find some reliable bullpen pieces in general with this team, because you've got Jack Dreher, who's been able to give you a sub-3.5 ERA. He's been a relatively good long guy, and Kasparis, prior to being pretty much the bulk guy for Shohei Ohtani, was one of the more reliable bullpen pieces for this team, but all of a sudden, Lou Trevino has been able to give you sub-3 ERA. You get Michael Kopech along with Kirby Yates off the injury list, and Kopech has yet to give up an earned run since coming off the injury list, but Tanner Scott has been a little bit hit or miss. Anthony Banda, north of a 4 ERA, but with the Dodgers, you do have the Death Star lineup that is currently number 1 in the big leagues in terms of runs per game. Shohei Ohtani doing Shohei Ohtani things, nearly a 400 on base, 29 home runs this far this season, but then you've got Andy Paz, Teoscar Hernandez combining for 30 home runs. Both of these guys hitting north of a 265, and in the case of Paz, he's almost hitting about a 290. Max Muncy, north of a 370 on base. Over the last 40 days, he's been giving you north of a 400 on base. Freddie Freeman continues to give you about a 375 on base. It's cooled down just a little bit, and expected a little bit more out of Mookie Betts, but all in all, this is a tremendous lineup going against a Royals team that entered into Saturday averaging about 2.9 runs per game at home. That is dead sinking last in the big leagues. Now, the good news for the Kansas City Royals is that you're all of a sudden getting a little bit more out of Bobby Witt Jr. He was able to go deep in this series, and for Witt Jr., about a 340 on base. He had a 4-8 game on Saturday, and Jonathan India had a 4-8 game on Saturday as well. Still not giving you a ton of power, but Vinny Pasquantino, he's up to 12 home runs. He's been able to fly with about a 275 average. Miguel Garcia sitting at 300, and then these guys like Drew Waters, Kyle Isbell, they're hitting about a 250 or so, but then you've got the likes of Nick Lofton, Jack Caglione. They're going to be better sooner rather than later. Jonathan Rave, but I know all these guys hitting below the Bedell sign of 200, that's just not really cutting it for this team. I did, as a result, have to set the Dodgers as a minus 127 favorite. I like Chris with the K. Bubich, but again, with just not getting any sort of reliable hitting whatsoever, I think that leads to a low-scoring slog, and I think that the Dodgers slug their way to victory. Semi-total at 8.8, so at a 9 or higher, I like the under, and with the Dodgers, 1 to lay up to a minus 126 on that money line. 927, 928 on the card. card, you've got the San Francisco Giants, and they're on the road against the Chicago White Sox. Justin Verlander is on the bump for the Giants, and it's old undecided for the White Sox. It's looking like Jonathan Cannon is going to get that start, and if it is indeed Mr. Cannon, I did set the White Sox at a plus 166. Would need at least a plus 167 to dive in there. For the Giants, made them a minus 166 favorite, so willing to lay up to minus 165 on the money line. Most likely we would look at a run line of a minus 105 or less, and then made by total 8.4, 8 or less. Looking at the over 8.5 or higher, the under for Jonathan Cannon. He, when he's been out there, has been relatively solid. He is going to be making his first start coming off the injured list, so, and as you know, he's not necessarily the most backed up pitcher out there in the big leagues, but for Jonathan Cannon, not necessarily a guy that's going to blow you away and get a lot of swings and misses, so his adjustment coming off the injured list should be a little bit easier. 7.2 strikeouts to about 3 walks per 9 innings, 4.66 ERA. Going to be his first start since June 2nd. Really didn't make a lot of minor league rehab assignments and did give up 4 runs in each out of his last 3 starts prior to hitting the injured list. So I do think that he's a guy that's going to be able to give you an okay start. For Justin Verlander, he's just not the same guy that he used to be. His swing and miss stuff has very much deteriorated, as he's only getting about 7.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, 4.52 ERA, 4.46 fielding independent, and he's given up at least 3 runs in now 3 out of his last 5 starts as well. In his 2 starts since coming off the injured list, 9 2/3 innings, 7 runs, 6 of which have been earned. So I mean, neither here nor there. And he does get to go up against the Chicago White Sox lineup that has been absolutely horrible in terms of being able to give you offense. As for the Chicago White Sox team, currently a bottom 4 team in the big leagues in terms of runs per game, they were able to squeak out a 1-0 win yesterday. So credit to them. And you've got guys that are able to get on base. Lennon Sosa, along with Chase Meredith and Edgar Quiero, owing at least at 258 for this team. But then you get into the likes of Josh Rojas, Joshua Palacios, Vinny Capra, Michael A. Taylor, along with Luis Robert. These are guys hitting a 220 or lower. And for Robert, I mean, I just don't know where he has went wrong. Miguel Vargas is up to 10 home runs this season. He's been hitting only about a 230 though, as well. And Andrew Benintendi's up to 10 home runs. So yay, verily there for the Giants. I recognize that this lineup has been a little bit less than tremendous as well. We saw that on display yesterday. But Rafael Devers giving you north of 390 on base and 15 plus home runs. That's going to be able to help with this team all the way. Ramos, 360 on base. He's been able to give you 12 plus home runs. William Thomas, you just need more out of him. 211 batting average, and he just has not been able to supply for the team all season long. But if you do take a look at the Giants and what they've been able to do on the road this far this season, they're an upper half of the big league team with regards to runs per game, and we know this about the San Francisco Giants. The bullpen pitching has been supreme. They are number 1 in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA, as you've got the likes of Randy Rodriguez, Tyler Rogers, Eric Miller, Camilo Duvall. I'll give you a sub 250 ERA, and you're just not getting that out of the Chicago White Sox. Now, for the White Sox, they're starting to mix and match and find some guys that are able to give you some good innings, as you've had Steven Wilson be able to give you a sub 3 ERA, Jordan Leisure more around about a 4 ERA. Brandon Eisert has not necessarily been too reliable, but Dan Altavilla, along Grant Taylor, these 2 guys have been able to give you a sub 350 ERA as well. So interesting little circumstance here. I'm willing to go up to a minus 105 on that Giants run line, set them at a minus 166 on the money line, plus 167 or higher. I'm going to be looking at the White Sox, and then made my total in 8.4. So 8 or less, looking at the over 8.5 or higher, the under. And we wrap things up with 929, 930 on the card. The Washington Nationals hit the road. They're facing off against the LA Angels. Jack Janowitz is on the bump for the Angels, and Mitchell Parker goes for Washington. Washington is an underdog between plus 110 to a plus 118, minus 127 to a minus 137. Then around Los Angeles, 9.5 is the total. Over is minus 115. The under is minus 105. Did sub by total 9.7. I'm going to be looking at the over for the Angels. I would need to be seeing what their run line price is, because I am only willing to go up to a minus 122 on this money line. As a matter of fact, this number continues to tick up and up for the Washington Nationals. If we can get to a plus 122, I would be willing to dive in on their money line right now. That initial FanDuel opener that I'm seeing in terms of laying a run half for the Angels, that's right around about a plus 146. I would need more like a plus 163. So very much out there. I think in some form or capacity, I'll probably be landing on the Nationals in this game, just because Jack Kachanowicz, for me, is just a big giant fade. Really, both of these guys are a fade, as Mitchell Parker is giving you no swing and miss whatsoever, and both of these guys are rocking north of 4 ERAs, but for Jack Kachanowicz, man. I mean, I recognize that his swing and miss stuff has been a little bit better with north of 6 strikeouts per 9 innings now, but he's given up 4 walks per 9 innings. He's a pitcher contact guy that is right now giving up 1.6 home runs for 9 innings. 5.49 ERA, 5.63 fielding independent. Less than tremendous there, and he has been less than tremendous at home all season long. And Flip side, you got a guy in Mitchell Parker who he does an okay job of not giving up like a lot of walks or anything like that. So, I mean, there's a little bit of a positive there. Again, he is getting about 6.2 strikeouts per 9 innings. He's given up 3.5 walks per 9, 1.1 home runs per 9 innings. So 462 fielding independent. And both of these bullpens are just absolutely brutal. Both of these teams in the bottom 5 of the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. Hunter Strickland is the lone guy in this LA Angels bullpen that is supplying you with an ERA that is better than a 4, as you've got these guys like Brock and Roll Burke, Reed Detmers, Ryan Zephyr-Young, Kenley Jansen, that have all not gotten the job done. And for the Washington Nationals, Kyle Finnegan has been able to give you sub 350 ERA. Andrew Chafin has been relatively okay as well, but likes of Zach Brzezinski, Eduardo Salazar, when they had Amore Lopez, they had to let him go. They've had to let go a lot of relievers because they just weren't getting the job done. That has been rough for them. And for the Nationals, they are averaging about 4.6 runs per game away from home. That is a top 12 mark in the big leagues. You've had Jordan Wood giving you Goodwood, 22 home runs, north of a 350 on base. You've had C.J. Abrams along Josh Bell. Now I'll give you 11 home runs. Bell is hitting for no average whatsoever, but Abrams is hitting nearly a 285. You do need some of these guys like a Dalen Lyle to be able to give you a little bit more of something, but the young gun in house at the third base spot has been pretty solid as well. And then for the LA Angels, all or nothing team. This team is in the top 3 in terms of home runs on a per at-bat basis. They're also in the bottom 3 in terms of on-base percentage. Look no further than Taylor Ward, 20 home runs with a 277 on base. Logan O'Hoppe, very happy about the 17 home runs, not so happy about the 270 on base. Joe Adell, starting to set fire to the rain. He's giving you 18 home runs. He's been able to hit for about a 310 on base. Mike Trout, he's giving you about a 340 on base, but hitting for just a 230 with 12 home runs. So that's been interesting. Nolan Junol, about a 365 on base, and Luis Arnifo has been completely useless thus far this season. So interesting circumstance here. Plus 122 or better. Going to be looking at the Nationals on the money line, and did so until 9.7. So I'm going to be in on this over as well, and that'll wrap things up for the Sunday edition of the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. If you do like hearing from this fine podcast, Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever your podcast, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one of 2 ways we'll fire those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, letters EM, they mean does not matter. So as per usual, please send these into the timeline. And the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via the 5-star review. And big thanks once again to our good friend Matt Josephs, aka Major Matt, for joining me in the last segment. And I'm coming at you guys every single day throughout the baseball season on this podcast. So I'll be back with you once again tomorrow. Thank you.
For the ones who get it done, the most important part is the one you need now. And the best partner is the one who can deliver. That's why millions of maintenance and repair pros trust Grainger, because we have professional-grade supplies for every industry, even hard-to-find products. And we have same-day pickup and next-day delivery on most orders. But most importantly, we have an unwavering commitment to help keep you up and running. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.